I know why the caged bird sings, ah me, when his wing is bruised and his bosom sore, when he beats his bars and would be free. It is not a carol of joy or glee, but a prayer that he sends from his heart's deep core, but a plea that upward to heaven he flings. I know why the caged bird sings. I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou and published by Virago Press is the first in a series of 7 autobiographical books written by this African-American author and poet. In this book, we follow Angelou, née Johnson, from St. Louis, Missouri, where she was born in 1828, to Long Beach, California, where she spent her earliest years, to Stamps, Arkansas, back to St. Louis, and finally to the Bay Area of Northern California. However, the majority of this text is taken up with her time in Arkansas, where she and her elder brother Bailey lived with their grandmother, whom she called Mama, and her uncle Willie, in the family's country store. Faced with many challenges of being a black girl in a deeply segregated and racially prejudiced South, Angelou nevertheless manages to weave a tale that is more hopeful than it is disheartening. She describes Stamps and her memories of it in the following way. What sets one southern town apart from another, or from a northern town or hamlet, or a city high-rise? The answer must be the experience shared between the unknowing majority, it, and the knowing majority, you. All of childhood's unanswered questions must finally be passed back to the town and answered there. Heroes and boogeymen, values and dislikes are first encountered and labeled in that early environment. In later years, they change faces, places, and maybe races, tactics, intensities, and goals, but beneath those penetrable masks they wear forever the stocking-capped faces of childhood. She paints the locations of her life with a vivid brush that does not seem dulled by the distance of time. The store with its many provisions, both necessary, canned vegetables, fruit, and the like, and frivolous, peanut butter patties and pickles straight from the barrel, and the surrounding dirt yard that young Marguerite decorates with her rake each morning, becomes the whole world for this girl and her family, as well as a center for the community overall. The characters are likewise vital and alive under the pen of Angelou. From her strong and determined no-nonsense grandmother to her disabled Uncle Willie, who, although crippled during a childhood accident, is nonetheless proud and capable, to her brother Bailey. If the store is the only physical location for this author's childhood life, then her brother is the central figure, her only consistent friend, confidant, and touchstone. Indeed, even her name was taken as a result of her brother, who first called her Maya's sister, and then simply later Maya. Angelou says of Bailey, "Of all the needs, there are none imaginary a lonely childhood has. The one that must be satisfied, if there is going to be hope, and a hope of wholeness, is the unshaking need for an unshakable God. My pretty black brother was my kingdom come." Although her life was in many ways transitory, moving from town to town and living with a variety of relatives, first her parents up till their divorce, then her grandmother, then her mother, then her grandmother again, and then her father, and finally her mother again, it is her brother who does remain a constant as she grows up. The first installment of the life of Angelou ends with the author turning 17 and having her son, Clyde, Guy Johnson, an open ending that makes the reader desire for more about her life. Maya Angelou had a broad career as a singer, dancer, actress, composer, and one of Hollywood's first female black directors, but became most famous as a writer, editor, essayist, playwright, and poet. As a civil rights activist, Angelou worked for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X. She was also an educator and served as the Reynolds Professor of American Studies at Wake Forest University. By 1975, Angelou was recognized as a spokesperson for all people who are committed to raising the moral standards of living in the United States. She served on 2 presidential committees, for Gerald Ford in 1975 and for Jimmy Carter in 1977. In 2000, Angelou was awarded the National Medal of Arts by President Clinton. In 2010, she was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor in the U.S., by President Barack Obama. Angelou was awarded over 50 honorary degrees before her death, which occurred on the morning of May 28, 2014, at the age of 86. The title of the book, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, itself comes from the 3rd stanza of Lawrence Dunbar's poem Sympathy, as quoted at the opening of this video. According to the author, the title pulls Angelou's readers into the tale of her life while reminding them that it is possible to lose control of one's life and to have one's freedom taken from them, and yet still remain hopeful and become a voice for that freedom. Angelou has credited Dunbar, along with Shakespeare, with forming her, quote, writing ambition. Of her autobiography, fellow African-American author James Baldwin states, "I know that not since the days of my childhood, when people in books were more real than the people one saw every day, I have found myself so moved. Why not decide for yourself by listening to I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings as an audiobook, or checking it out as a click and collect?"